Garfield, I'm so happy to be here sitting with you. You have a ton to talk about.
I do. I do. Yes, I do. Yes.
There's so much going on for you. There was the last time we met, but as we spoke about just now, it was a quick opportunity for us.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we met at the opening gala at Vancouver International Film Festival last year, which was awesome. That was my first time attending that. And at the time, I just wrapped Altered Carbon, and there was a couple of other projects that were in the works. And this year could be really, really cool.
I'm sure it's going to be. I mean,
Yeah.
just to begin with, Altered Carbon has taken off. It's huge. It's the main screen on Netflix right now. What's that like for you?
It's a little surreal because when I remember being at home and I'm friends with a lot of actors and stunt coordinators and directors on Facebook, and one of the stunt coordinators who I've worked with many times posted I think like deadline um, little headline about Alter Carbon and what the scope of that show was going to be and how they wanted it to be the sci-fi Game of Thrones and that it was going to be filmed in Vancouver. I'm like, wow, that'd be such a cool project to be on. And I had two auditions within 2 weeks, which was really crazy. So I just kind of like threw my name in the hat, and then the next audition I had was with a director, and that audition was really interesting because my character uh, in the show as an envoy soldier is Matea Gomez. And when I went into the audition, um, the entire audition was with a lot of guys that were really lean and looked, Latino or Mexican or Hispanic. And then there's a Caucasian, skinny 16-year-old kid, right? And I was thinking, man, I'm just not in the mix here.
Are you sure I'm in the right
I'm
place?
just, is this right? Yeah. So I went into the audition, and there was like a page of a simple scene on the battlefield, and that was it. And the director, who's from England, said to me, "Well, yeah, Garfield, really like what you did. We're gonna do something else. Um, you're on the battlefield. Your face is blown clean off, and you've got your comrade with you. You're about to die, and you say to him, 'We're gonna win, and we're gonna do it. All right? It's gonna be okay.' And it's really emotional. Go." It's just
How do you adapt to that kind of direction?
I I immediately uh, took a deep breath and I said okay, and I got really emotional really quickly, like that it was really happening, it was real for me, and tears were welling in my eyes, and it turned into a really good scene, and that's kind of how I approach auditions for the last couple of years. Had some really good advice from some of my peers like Alex Ponovic and Jayla Horsdale, who are really good friends of mine. And when they go into auditions, and what I've been implemented into my auditions now is that I'm not going in to get a role. I'm not going in to sort of like, do what I think they'd like to see. I just try to do as much character development and research as I can for that with what they give me in the breakdowns and scripts or whatever. And then I just try to do a good scene. I try to bring integrity to it. And a good audition for me is actually having it resonate with me that something real happened. And when I leave the audition, I'm like, yeah, that was a good scene.
But when you're going into an audition with this character in mind, and then they spin it like they did in that one for you
Yeah,
and give you a whole new idea and scene,
yeah.
do you have a certain process that can get you to that emotional level that quickly?
Yeah, I do. And I've spent the last 5 years studying with this amazing lady. Her name is Deb Podowski. And she runs a scene study and on camera class in Gastown called Austin Tuck Studios. And how I found her is a really interesting story. Uh, is I landed a role on this Fox series called Almost Human, and I played an android, MX-43 android, and J.J. Abrams was one of the executive producers of that series. And once I had that on my resume, I stopped going for roles like gangbanger number 2 and SWAT leader number 1, I started going for really big roles and some significant guest starring roles. And what I discovered is that during that process, I wasn't prepared. I just didn't have the tools. The audition room is can be very sterile and cold, and it's nothing like being on set. It's completely different. And so I kept getting these opportunities, and I thought, you know what? If I'm going to get in the door, I need to be able to get back in the door. So I can't mess it up. So I Googled acting schools in Vancouver, and I stumbled onto Austin Tuck Studios. I took her on camera class for about 3 months. And then one of the students in that class, who'd been with her for a very long time, Sachin Satchel, who's an awesome guy, said to me, "You know what, dude? You got to get in the scene study class. That's going to change the game for you." And it completely changed the game for me. And so those moments in the audition room where the director says, "You know what? I'd like you to do this or that," happens in scene study class all the time. And she's the hard line for me. Like, she really challenges you and kicks your ass. So she represents what the industry is, which is sometimes nurturing, sometimes very supportive, sometimes incredibly unfair, and sometimes incredibly brutal. You know, so I paid my dues and had some hard knocks in her class and had some really good success. And through that really great creative family of actors that are taking her class, you just see the success and failure over and over and over again over the last 5 years, and you just kind of like, it just becomes second nature. It's a muscle that you can flex. You know?
That's crazy. I'm way too emotional for that side of things. I don't think I can handle it. I'd be in there and it's supposed to be a happy scene and I'd be in tears because I'd just be like, I'm not doing it right or something, you know? So
you can get in your head, and it's not. I'm not immune to it. You can get outside of yourself and start getting really heady with it and overthink things. But if you let it go and just know that trust that you've done the work that you need to be in this audition or be on set to do that, it just kind of flows, and you just kind of let go and you become part of the fabric of that scene. It's really cool.
And then you get awesome parts like the one in Almost Human and Altered Carbon and so many others that you've had. The funny thing about those two for me is they're both set in the future.
Yes.
Did you find that coincidental, or was it like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now?
Yeah, at the time, both auditions were very sort of out of body. I mean, it just became a real thing for me. Those two roles were very, very different, and the audition process for those two roles were almost exactly the same. Same casting director, same sort of process of going in and having this really juicy character to play, and just kind of letting go and having it be an extension of myself in some respects. If you can extend yourself as an android.
Yeah, or an envoy soldier.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about that for a minute, because now I've started getting into the show. I'm still at the confused stage, which I'm sure I'm not alone.
You know, what episode are you on?
I'm on episode 3.
Yes, you are definitely in the confused stage. 'Cause
that will go away though, right?
It will. 4, 5, and 6, then things start to make sense, and you start to align yourself with characters that you connect with emotionally and you root for them. And after 7, just hang on. It's just really, literally hang on. It gets really heavy.
That envoy soldier, I guess, what would you call them? I guess they're a breed all on their own.
Yeah, it's the great thing about being on this show was that we had a lot of feedback from the showrunner and the directors and costumes as far as what kind of world we were trying to create. And the envoy soldiers were like 300 years in the past. And this is where Kovac comes from. This is the closest thing he's had to family that he can remember, and where he really kind of found himself and what his purpose was going to be. And what we tried to establish, that we had chemistry amongst us as these characters. And the writer was there as well. She was really involved in the process of the filmmaking, and if something didn't feel right, she had her iPad out and was changing lines and changing scenarios just to fit the chemistry of the actors playing those roles. And from day one, we established as actors. If you can see us, it's just what kind of relationships we had. We were brothers and sisters on set. It was behind the scenes. It was awesome. Some deep conversations, some crazy hilarity. If you ever interview some of the Envoy soldiers, there's one scene where we're running in the dark and we're storming this compound, and I had a moment that was sort of a laugh track for the rest of the night.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was.
That's all you can hope for.
I had a stunt moment. Let's just call it that.
Well, I'm looking forward. Will it show through in the series?
No, no. It was one of those moments where we did take after take after take, and we did the first 5 runs where I'm running and I'm jumping and I'm leading the Envoy soldiers into this convoy, in this compound, and for some reason when they said, "Okay, let's do a take," I jumped off the other foot. And it sort of like hanging off this cement ledge, and then I slowly fell to the ground gracefully, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, Gomez!" It's just.
So I'm guessing you redid that take.
They redid that take, and like they barely held it together. Like they're just laughing. Their like faces were hurting and crying. It was awesome.
So how do you come back from that and get into a serious side again?
With great difficulty. With great difficulty, yeah. And you get through that scene and you're filming the next scene, and you're there and you're ready, you're in the moment, and then somebody like Teach Grant will say something in your ear and you start laughing again.
And you know what? I think for you, a lot of being able to be so moldable, so able to get back into it, is the fact that you do have all types of other experience. You're in theater,
Yes.
you sing,
Yeah.
you're an actor, you're a personal trainer. You've done it all.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough that that I've had a lot of life experience, and I've been married for this April will be 18 years. I've got 3 wonderful children. I've got a beautiful wife at home, and so having that work-life balance, and they're really amazing at supporting me in what I do. My 9 to 5, I would say, was personal training or is personal training for the last almost 14 years, and in the last 3 years. Acting has really started to take off, and it hasn't seemed to slow down, especially with Altered Carbon, and I've got a few other projects coming out on Netflix and on TBS, and yeah, it's been a crazy ride. It's been a crazy ride.
Are you allowed to talk about anything that's coming out?
Yeah, totally.
All right, so let's talk Netflix first.
Okay.
What's coming up for that?
I did a movie with the guys that were a part of a Comedy Central show called Workaholics, and they produced with Seth Rogen their first feature film called Game Over Man, and that comes out in April. Exclusive feature film on Netflix, and watching those guys work was just comedic genius, and they had so many heavy cats just come in for a day to do like improv scenes and just add some layers to it. I can't tell you who came in, but cats were flying in from LA and from New York just for the day and to do this movie, and it was just unbelievably hilarious. Like Saturday Night Live alums and like people that you've seen in tons of great comedic movies, and I was just blown away by their talent, their accessibility, and just what the vibe was on set. It was super light, super spontaneous, and these guys were just such pros.
Is there ever a point of intimidation in that case?
Not necessarily intimidation for me at this point, but there was a couple of moments where you just get caught like a deer in the headlights, like, man, that's so amazing you're doing that. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm in character. I'm this guy. You know what I mean? And other times they would just crack the entire crew up with, they have it on the page and they'll do a couple takes with what's on the page, and then they'll just, all bets are off. They just start riffing.
And that's some of the stuff they end up actually keeping.
Oh my God. So like, I'm sure as far as editing that feature film, it must have been so hard to decide which which amazing comedic moments they had to put on the cutting room floor because of time restrictions. Like just crazy, ridiculous talent.
Awesome. So jumping to TBS, is it also comedic, or is it something completely different?
I was in Calgary for about 2 weeks, I think in September or October, for a show called The Detour, and I think that's on TBS, and it's also on Crave TV, and the only thing I can describe it as just crazy, dramatic hilarity. It's about this family that is traveling, and it's a husband and wife and 2 kids, and it plays to me a little bit like Modern Family, but just way, just so the subject matter and what happens to them. Yeah, it's it's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's
I'm
crazy.
looking forward to it.
So yeah, I play an agent on that show, and I think the third season just started, and I think you can watch it on TBS and on Crave TV. And yeah, I was really blown away. That was another show where I couldn't believe how on top of their game they were as far as comedy goes. Because comedy is really tough to do. It's like the timing and just just you know just riffing on some of these lines and having those moments and having them resonate is really tough to do. And those guys make it look so easy.
And you're also part of a project with CBC that's just been released. Is that right? This Blows, I believe it's called.
Oh yeah. That was a really good friend of mine, Craig Northey. He's got 2 amazing kids that directed and starred in this web series called This Blows, and it's out right now on CBC.com or .ca, and I can't quite describe it other than the fact that it's also produced by one of the guys from Kids in the Hall.
Okay.
And if you've ever watched Kids in the Hall, that show was out there as far as ridiculousness and genius at this. Just so ahead of the time. I grew up watching that show, and those guys were so amazing. And they're all good friends, They're all good friends, and the vibe on set was really light, but they knew exactly what they wanted, and they left room for riffing and creative moments, and I had a great time. Yeah, I had a great time.
Now, speaking of great times, I know that you enjoy cosplay.
Oh my God!
Tell me about that.
You've done some research.
Absolutely.
You've done some research. Oh my gosh. Well, growing up, it's funny. Growing up, I was a huge comic book geek. Like my favorite superheroes were Spider-Man, Superman, all the Marvel characters and things like that. So, and Power Man, Luke Cage, all of that stuff. I was immersed in that, and I loved the way those guys looked, and I loved the stories and being the hero and saving the day. And so it's one of the reasons why I got into weightlifting and personal training, because I wanted to look like that as a kid. And then I discovered cosplay because my son, growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't get the costumes, so I'd try to sew them myself, and they'd look really crappy. You can imagine like a 10-year-old kid trying to sew a Spider-Man mask.
I love
and having the means to purchase a really authentic Spider-Man costume for not only myself but for my son, who's completely a mini version of myself, has been amazing. Yeah, because we went to 2 Spider-Man features downtown Vancouver, dressed as Spider-Man. Halloween, we do the same things, and it's just because the thing about Spider-Man that's really great, and why he's so popular, and I've told this to a few people, and they just kind of go, "Oh my God, that totally makes sense," is that growing up as a black kid in a predominantly white community, I couldn't be Superman, I couldn't be Batman, I couldn't be Aquaman, I couldn't be a lot of the superheroes that I really loved because I didn't look like them. But putting on a Spider-Man mask, I could be Spider-Man, and no one could tell me any different, right? So, and that's why he's so popular. And in cosplay, he's the most done character as far as cosplay goes. Yeah.
So now, he's been around for a while, but he's big in feature film right now as Black Panther.
Oh my God, that's my next purchase.
Yeah?
That's totally my next purchase. I've already planned it out. I haven't told my wife yet. I haven't told my wife yet that I'm going to
Surprise!
spend all this money on this Black Panther costume. We went to see it actually on Sunday. This look, it was amazing. Such an important film. Like it's great that it's such a big budget film. It's a superhero film. It delves into the African culture, and it gives young black kids heroes. And not only that, when I watched the film, I was really struck by the fact that there were such strong female characters in that film. That have you seen it?
Not yet. I can't wait.
Such strong female characters that were intelligent, fierce, completely badass, vulnerable, and fully clothed, and an integral part of the journey, integral part of the story, which was so amazing to see. So I've got two daughters, I've got a son, and like just having them there and watching, I got emotional because, this is a story that I've been waiting for since I was their age, and just from the box office numbers in North America, you can see that there is an audience for it, as opposed to what was thought of that kind of genre, how successful that genre would be. But it's blown it out of the water. And the actors in the film are amazing. Yeah.
I'm so excited to see it.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much, Garfield.
This has been great.
My pleasure.
All right.